Cabernet-based.com. You don't want to know why I'm laughing. It's not funny, honestly. Anyway, Cabernet Sauvignon. Actually, no, Cabernet Sauvignon. Cabernet Sauvignon is the dominant factor in all these wines. Some of them haven't got anything else in, some of them have. But we've got 5 different vintages. 3 different countries. Anyway, let's try Wakefield 2008 Cabernet Sauvignon. If you're watching this in Australia, this is called Taylor's. But they had to change their name because Cabernet Sauvignon from the Clare Valley is exactly the same as port from the Douro Valley, isn't it? Fine. Okay, stick my nose in here. Clare Valley. Sometimes I get mintiness on Clare Valley wines. Here, I stick my nose in and I get fruity, blackcurranty freshness. It doesn't feel like it's going to be an incredibly complex wine. And back to that mint. I'm not a big fan of mint in wines. Bit of it, good. Trouble for me in Clare Valley, some of them have just too much of it. Here, feels like they've got it in proportion. There's a bit of it hiding in the background. Well, that's the type of juicy, honest, rich, tasty wine that that first brought Australia to people's notice. And I wish there were a few more of those wines like that. Wines that are not afraid to be ever so slightly old-fashioned, but which are just honest and full of flavour. A bit of toastiness from some oak. There's some ripe berry, blackcurrant, and very tasty wine. I mean, it says on the back, you can keep it 5 to 10 years. That for something that I've just pulled the top. Well, you saw me pull the screw cap off. It feels very forward now, and so maybe it will go on for that long. But when it tastes like that, you think, well, why waste space in the cellar? There's some wines that actually benefit from it. Why not just drink that now? So I'm going to have another drink. Yeah, a bit of chocolate, bit of coffee. Simple, honest, tasty, gutsy. I like that. Very like that a lot. Okay, de Grendel, Rubaiyat. So Cabernet, Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot. Rubaiyat, part of Omar Khayyam, for all the literary scholars among you who are wondering what on earth what it meant. Well, when I stuck my nose into the Rubaiyat, it was corked. So I thought, oh, well, I'm going to have to just like run it as it is, say it's corked and how disappointing it is. Then I went to a tasting about a couple of weeks later after I'd filmed this at South Africa House in Trafalgar Square, and it was there again. So here's the notes I've got there. Rich vanilla style, fine boned. What I mean by that is it had this really nice juicy fruit, but it had a structure that had poise and elegance and finesse, stylish, long, chunky flesh, decent grip and balanced, lots of supple, fragrant fruit. And I found in the de Grendel whites, I found this sort of like slight greenness. I found it in the Sauvignon, and I found it in, what's it called, Winifred, the Semillon Viognier, and I can't remember what the other bit in, maybe the Sauvignon in there as well. Just a green peppery character taking away from the wine. What I found in this one, and also there was a de Grendel Merlot at the same tasting, was it also had a little bit of greenness here, but here it was working in the wine's favour. It was there as a subtle bit in the background, and whereas I don't like that green pepper in a white wine, here what it was doing, it was adding herbal character rather than herbaceous character, and it made for a more complete, rounded wine. So you have this nice rich fruit, but then you have this sort of slightly leafier, more fragrant, more elegant end, and I was ended up being pretty impressed by the wine. Anyway, moving on. Let's see whether the next wine's nearly there. The High Road, still in South Africa. Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc. Okay, and again, 2 things. The extra year has brought some softness to a wine, so it feels like a more confident, juicy, rounded, relaxed. It feels like it's not, you know, sometimes when we're young, we want to either be cocksure and confident and impress people, and then as we get older, we just think, well, just hey, whatever. The other thing, I don't notice that South African bake, so I don't know if it's a regional thing, whatever. Doesn't smell extremely complex, but it smells honest and juicy. Find it a bit volatile, actually. There's something there that when I taste it, it smells good, but I find it a bit angular when I taste it. There's this blackberry cassis, plummy flesh, but I almost want a little bit more juiciness, suppleness. It feels Yeah, it feels angular. And again, as with the Rubaiyat, I'm going to keep an eye on that because I love it when wines prove me wrong. But the more I taste it, the less often they do. The more your first impressions, you trust them. If you ever read a book called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, brilliant book. Go out and buy it, and all about how your first impressions. The more basically, the bottom line is the more experienced you are, the more accurate your first impressions are, with several caveats. Anyway, let's see whether caveat. How many wine videos include the word caveat? Let's see whether we get caveat with Miguel Torres, Manso de Velasco, Old Vine Cabernet Sauvignon from Curico in Chile. Classic Chile, intense but simple. Black currants, pastels. There's a slight earthiness behind it. There's a chocolatey edge from oak, but ultimately, yeah, rich but simple. There's this rich olive-like nature too. I like the fruit flavours there, but I find them ever so slightly stewed. There's a rich plumminess, and there's a hardness there. There's nothing there that makes me want to think that wine's going to get heaps better. I like its intensity. I certainly would probably ask for a second glass if it was going around the table. I wouldn't want to go out and buy a bottle. Sorry. But as with the two previous ones, I'm going to keep my eye on that because I think that there is a wine there wanting to impress me more, but doesn't do it today. Let's see whether Lewin Art Series Cabernet 2005 now, well, the one before with 2005 from Margaret River does it. I was at the annual Australia Day tasting a couple of months ago now, and people talk about Coonawarra as being Australia's great red wine region. I'll stick my neck out there. Margaret River is better. I'm ready to be bombarded by Coonawarrians. Coonawarriors? I don't know. But for me, I find extra poise, elegance, length, complexity, blah in Margaret River. But let's see whether I find it here. From a winery better known for its Chardonnay, but I've always had a soft spot for its Cabernet. Okay, first off, it's a wine that is not jumping out of the glass to get you. Maybe the three before, one of their problems was that they were trying to be almost too yapping and puppy-like, and this one is just something that's going, hey, I'm a wine, you're a wine taster, let's get together, rather than let me try and impress you with my massive handshake to start with, and let's go a bit further. So there's an earthiness, there's this ever so slight hint of mint, there's this herbal quality, and the fruit flavours, blackcurrant, there's blackberries, and it feels like it's a wine that every time I come back to it, there's more going on, which is what you want from a wine. You don't want something that just really reveals everything up front and then tails off. I'd much rather have it the other way. It hints at something to start with and then gets better, and that's what this is doing. Wine for grown-ups. It's lovely, it's got this heady character, but it's not heady as in I'm trying to over-impress you. I'm heady, I'm confident, but I don't want to, I don't want to swamp you. It feels like a wine that's still uncurling, unfurling, like a fern, and juicy fresh fruit. But juicy fresh fruit is not the main event. There's this undercurrent of other things going on. Herbs, bit of mineral, oak nicely imbalanced. It's yes, okay, it's a bit older than the two South Africans, but it just feels like a much more grown-up wine. Probably not supposed to say that, but I think that's a better wine than their Chardonnay. But hey. Right, okay, let's try the last one. So we've started with Wakefield, we're ending with Wakefield. This is St Andrews, their top vineyard in the Clare Valley, 2004 Cabernet Sauvignon. There's a subdued earthiness here. Now, it feels like, I don't think it's as classy a wine as the Lewin, but it feels like it's got that same parentage. Well, obviously it has the same parentage that I saw in the first one, as in something that was not trying to overdo it, but was just confident in being what it was. Didn't mind being not in the forefront of new style. It doesn't feel like it's trying to flesh it out and flash it out with oak and ripeness. But there's something here that would keep you coming back for it. So I'm going to go back for it. So, this is 2004 in a screw cap, and people talk about how will wines develop under screw cap. Well, certainly this is developing aged characters. I look at the colour, and it's getting that little bit of brown to it, and but it feels like there's a warm, leathery character coming through beyond that first wave of fresh fruit. Feels like it's now going to that second stage, and it's a very interesting second stage. And a fascinating contrast with the Lewin. Both in screw caps. This one's a year older. It's from a place that's probably that bit warmer, and it feels quite a lot more developed. It doesn't feel like it's dying or oxidised or anything like that. But there's a soft, warm confidence about it. I don't think it's as complex a wine as the Lewin, but it's a really very tasty wine. And I've had some of the St Andrews wines before from. I can't remember having one in the screw cap before, but hey, this is for me is the best I've had so far. It's this warm earthiness. It's not got that mint. Again, I was saying about Clare Valley. Sometimes the mint intrudes, but really lovely, fresh. Yet developed, if that makes sense. So what I mean by fresh is that there's nothing there that makes me think I need to suck this up quickly. Developed as in the fruit has gone beyond that initial flush of juicy bright fruit, and it's just getting those secondary characters when it's going into the ever so slightly cooked fruit spectrum, but it's still got these plums, it's got these blackberries, and very tasty. Now the three Australians here, for me, stand out above the other three. But I'm a POM, and I have relatives in Australia, I have to confess. But what I'm going to do is I'll probably drink the Australians later on, and not all of them, but I will come back to the other three because I want to be proved wrong. I would like to have liked them more than I did, but hey, that's wine. See you soon.